The world keeps evolving. The times keep changing. The new generation of technology. The new generation of information. They bring the future before us. Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, a place where the spirit of heroism underlies the new generation to research and innovate in technology. The University of Heroes, ITS. ITS is one of the best science and technology universities in Indonesia, which was founded by Dr. Angga in 1957. In every step, ITS focuses in advancing education, research, management, and community service. As an incorporated public university, ITS has been able to manage autonomously the policy of academics, organizations, finance, students' affairs, human resources, facilities, operational, and infrastructure.
In the spirit of Indonesian heroes, during the battle in the 10th of November 1945, ITS always makes efforts to be the best in education, research, and community services, especially in the fields of industry and maritime. ITS also actively contributes to the nation development, and in the future, ITS will become an entrepreneurial university with world-class reputation.
ITS has many achievements. Both national and international achievements prove that ITS keeps growing and gives the best contribution to the nation of Indonesia. ITS is a place for new hopes to grow. An ideal environment for the new generation to flourish in 3 strategic locations within the industrial city of Surabaya. As a smart eco-campus, ITS maintains harmony between technological advances and the sustainability of the surrounding ecosystem. ITS has 7 faculties with prospective scientific fields, including Scientics, INSIS, Vocation, Creatis, Martech, Electrics, Plan. ITS is a space for the new generation who are hungry for knowledge because it provides a wide range of references in both physical and digital form. ITS makes it easier for the new generation to access information by providing flexible classes. ITS keeps moving forward in facing future challenges by providing the best facilities for the new generation's activities. The facilities support both spiritual and physical needs. ITS also provides research facilities in the ITS Science Technopark, including ICT and robotics, automotive, maritime, and creative industries. Therefore, the excellent generations from ITS will emerge and make history. ITS is a space for the new generation to express themselves. ITS is a place where the new generation learns new things and finds their purpose. ITS has become a place where the new generations that carry the future will be born.
ITS is a campus of science and technology, which focuses on the research and innovation, presenting technology for prosperity.
With a spirit of heroism, ITS brings the future before us. ITS, the University of Heroes.
Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, Surabaya, as one of Indonesia's leading universities for study and research, is built above 180-hectare land, currently accommodating 18,484 active students, 1,094 lecturers, and managed by 1,561 staff members. Launching program Smart Eco Campus at 2011, ITS is fully equipped with integrated technology. Students can learn and interact through Smart Class program by simply log in at the designated time for an online class session. Massive open online courses, MOOCs, are free online courses available for anyone to enroll. All accessed by smart cards, application, web and mobile site. Smart Eco Campus is also implemented by building an eco farm to obtain environmental-based lifestyle. ITS is providing iCar, an electric self-driving car, with 20 stopping points utilized by iCar app. Campus Bike to simplify student mobility around campus. Supply with best facilities, students can live comfortably inside ITS campus. Starting from excellent student dormitories, canteen and cafeteria at various places, K1 Mart to shop daily needs, Manarul Ilmi Mosque, accessible toilets for disabled people in every area, various sports facilities, indoor and outdoor fields, a medical centre as health service unit, the Language and Culture Centre to boost English competence, ITS Library, and several co-working spaces as a learning resource centre. ITS provides more than 184 laboratories spread across 7 faculties. Among them are the Robotics Laboratory, that has pioneered research, development and education, and already successfully winning national, regional and international robot contests. Robotics team built Robot Medical Assistant, RAISA, to reduce the workload of medical personnel and minimize the exposure of viruses. The Energy and Environmental Laboratory has the main task to support ITS main research and provide consulting, analysis and training services. Material and Energy Laboratory, equipped with the latest machinery to help students learning to determine product and material quality control. Architecture Laboratory provide places for students to design, produce and refine their architectural artistic creations. Geomatics Laboratory is utilized for mapping survey to support the geospatial information industry and natural resources management. ITS Techno-Science as a place for ITS to contribute to the industry by collaborative learning to support technological innovation and commercialization, business creation and employment development, economic development, which all incorporated in Science Techno Park. High technology in line with natural environment makes ITS beautiful and comfortable, important to create a supportive learning atmosphere for the students.
Seventy 70% of the world's territory consists of water. There are many things can be learned from the world's waters. The movement of world industry also depends on waters. We all need many engineers to explore them. We need you to study maritime together at Faculty of Marine Technology, Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, Surabaya. Founded in 1960, Department of Naval Architecture was one of the first departments established in ITS, a campus based on independent struggling history of Indonesia, which was occurred in Surabaya. This department is the forerunner to the establishment of the Martech ITS Surabaya, which is committed to provide higher education to our generation. For 60 years, we have continued to develop to build maritime community empowerment in Asia Pacific. As a quality and customer-oriented institution, we have been awarded national and international accreditation in each department, respectively. It proves that Martech ITS Surabaya is an excellent place to study marine technology and engineering. Martech ITS Surabaya has many outstanding professors and doctors whose numbers will continue to rise, along with our commitment to produce the best engineers who are completely ready to deal with social, business, and industry in the maritime field. Martech ITS Surabaya provides an excellent educational environment and sophisticated facilities for students in order to develop themselves better. Hence, we are trusted to be an educational institution to build hard and soft skills up. Martech ITS has a strong focus on teaching, scientific research, and community service on marine technology and engineering's development, utilization, and transformation. Together, we build and keep moral ethic values on the whole aspects of the educational process to create community-based marine development, sustainable and eco-friendly in the global world region. Martech ITS Surabaya continuously improves to learn in order to be ready for facing future challenges. Thus, we continue to develop learning and delivery methods which could be accessed by people. Martech ITS Surabaya encourages all students and academics to obtain benefits and take part of great opportunity provided by many international programs. Martech ITS Surabaya always strives to launch innovations in the development of technology and engineering in maritime field and foster maritime insight and culture as well. From the various efforts accomplished by Martech, this faculty has collected many prestigious awards, which certainly become a motivation and benchmark for students as well as academics to perform better and continue to compete in the maritime field. Established for 60 years, Martech ITS Surabaya has cooperated with companies and institutions engaged in the maritime sector around the world. We are ready to go on voyage for the next 60 years, crossing the oceans from what we have traveled with Martech ITS Surabaya.
Come and join us.
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 See the future. See is our future.
Selamat datang di Departemen Teknik Perkapalan Fakultas Teknologi Kelautan Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, Surabaya. Sejak berdiri pada 10 November 1960 bersamaan dengan berdirinya ITS, Departemen Teknik Perkapalan telah meluluskan lebih dari 2.400 tenaga profesional naval arsitek yang berkontribusi besar pada kemajuan industri maritim di Indonesia hingga saat ini. Didukung dengan 24 orang tenaga pengajar terbaik negeri, 4 orang profesor, 6 orang doktor, dan 14 orang magister. Departemen Teknik Perkapalan siap memberikan pendidikan tinggi yang komprehensif dalam ilmu perkapalan dengan kualitas pendidik, fasilitas, serta relasi terbaik yang dapat kami tawarkan. Program studi yang ditawarkan di Departemen Teknik Perkapalan ITS terdiri dari program studi sarjana, magister, dan juga doktoral. Terdapat 4 kelas program sarjana yang ditawarkan. 2 diantaranya merupakan kelas reguler. 1 kelas International Joint Degree, di mana mahasiswa dipersiapkan untuk mendapatkan 2 gelar sarjana, serta melaksanakan tahun terakhir perkuliahan di Mokpo University, Korea Selatan. Dan 1 kelas International Undergraduate Program yang mempersiapkan mahasiswa untuk ikut dalam kegiatan internasional. Departemen Teknik Perkapalan ITS juga telah terakreditasi secara nasional maupun internasional dengan akreditasi A dari Badan Akreditasi Nasional Perguruan Tinggi dan AUNQA yang diterbitkan oleh ASEAN University Network. Untuk menunjang aktivitas perkuliahan, Departemen Teknik Perkapalan ITS dilengkapi dengan fasilitas ilmu perkapalan terlengkap di Asia Tenggara. International Classroom, Laboratorium Desain Kapal, Laboratorium Hidrodinamika Kapal, Laboratorium Konstruksi dan Kekuatan Kapal, Laboratorium Teknologi dan Manajemen Produksi Kapal, Laboratorium Teknologi Kapal Digital, Studio Multimedia, dan lainnya.
Terima kasih, saya mahasiswi Aryawan. Belajar perkapalan itu adalah belajar end product. Artinya ketika mahasiswa lulus harus mampu mendesain kapal, membuat perencanaan produksi kapal, dan yang terakhir memberikan support secara engineering ketika kapal tadi beroperasi. Dunia kerja perkapalan tentu sangat luas sekali, mulai kapal tadi didesain, kemudian shipyard atau galangan kapal, perusahaan pelayaran, industri oil and gas, tambang. Selain itu tentu bisa bekerja di bidang pemerintahan, kemudian bisa bekerja sebagai surveyor di biro klasifikasi yang ada di dunia. Saya rasa itu, terima kasih.
Dengan banyaknya jumlah prestasi yang diberikan oleh mahasiswa dan dosen dari Departemen Teknik Perkapalan ITS, kami optimis untuk terus berkontribusi menjadi yang terdepan dalam pilar-pilar inovasi kemaritiman, bangsa, dan dunia. Departemen Teknik Perkapalan ITS.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? Before we are going to start today's event, please let us announce some protocols for those of you who are joining this conference. First, make sure your ID screen is clearly made using the name or the agency you are working with. Second, all participants could please turn off the audio features and the videos during the video conference except for the moderators and the keynote speakers. Third, we are delightfully suggesting all of the participants to be adjusting the position with the most comfortable seating according to the location and make sure to get enough amount of lighting and preventing backlight. Fourth, please make sure your connection is in the best condition and a stabilized connection is needed for this video conference. Fifth, the question and answer session, if there are any questions or responses, we are delightfully inform you that you could use the raise hand button via the Zoom or simply send your responses by the chat column that has been provided. And the last but not least, we would like to suggest our honorable guest for the best condition to use the headset or any earphone so that the audio could be heard clearly. And before we start the program today, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Honorable Professor Satrio Somantri Brojonegoro as the President of Indonesian Academy of Science, to the Honorable Professor Jason Monti as the Head of Department of Mechanical Engineering from the University of Melbourne, Australia, to the Honorable Professor Jongki Paik as the Professor of Safety Design and Engineering at Naval Architecture Department, Pusat National University, South Korea, to the Honorable Professor Mehmet Atlar as the Professor and Associate HOD Research from the University of Strathclyde, UK, to the Honorable Dr. Rafet Emekert from the University of Strathclyde, UK, to the Honorable Professor Muhammad Asari as the Rector of Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, to the Honorable Dr. Trika Pitana as the Dean of Faculty of Marine Technology, to the Honorable Professor Iketut Arya Priya Utama as the Chairman of Senta 2020. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, we would like to welcome you all to the 5th International Conference on Marine Technology or Seminar Internasional Teori dan Aplikasi Senta 2020, and may the blessing of the Almighty God always be with us. It is such an honor for me, Suci Amalia Terry, to be standing here in front of you and guiding you till the end of this international scale event. And as one of the best technological university in Indonesia, ITS has been providing innovation as a proof of contributions for making a better surroundings. And here is a recap of how ITS has moved our environment one step better.
Perjalanan sejarah manusia bukan hanya terukur oleh jarak. Perjalanan peradaban manusia terukir jelas dalam tonggak sejarah. Enam dekade sudah kami turut membangun anak bangsa, melahirkan alumni, pelopor, dan inovator yang berkontribusi membangun negeri. Berawal dari perencanaan hingga pembangunan, dari ide hingga pengaplikasian, ITS menjadi salah satu pionir dalam inovasi dan teknologi. Kontribusi ITS selama 6 dekade. Pada tahun 1978, ITS menjadi pelopor di bidang penyiaran televisi. ITS juga berkontribusi dengan pembuatan dan instalasi pemancar di daerah pelosok yang belum terlayani oleh TV milik negara. Periode 1990 hingga 1993, IUT ITS Telecommunication Project bersama Perumtel dipilih oleh Intelsat berhasil melakukan karakterisasi atmosfer Q-band pada area tropis. Modelisasi kanal gelombang milimeter diharapkan menjadi salah satu alokasi kanal untuk penerapan sistem komunikasi generasi kelima atau 5G yang akan berguna di masa mendatang. Menjawab perkembangan serta peningkatan lalu lintas komunikasi pada era 90-an, tim ITS bersama tim Jepang melakukan optimalisasi submersible dan subsistem radio gelombang mikro backhaul system link sepanjang 488 km dengan kabel 3.878 km yang dilengkapi 7 repeater ini berhasil terbentang antara Surabaya, Banjarmasin dengan bantuan Kuroshio Maru Cable Shed. Kuala Kencana, sebuah kota yang meraih penghargaan The Best Ecological City, terintegrasi di tengah rimbunnya pepohonan hutan Timika, Papua. Kota modern ini direncanakan oleh Profesor Silas dan tim pada tahun 1991. Beliau percaya memahami alam adalah dasar dari pembangunan, bukan dengan mengalahkan alam, namun berjalan berkelanjutan dengan alam sekitar. Inovator yang lahir dari ITS juga berkontribusi pada moda transportasi darat di Indonesia. Salah satunya adalah KA Clips Rail Fastening System dengan kapasitas produksi 1.500.000 per tahun berlabel SNI dan teruji oleh Badan Pengujian Dalam maupun luar negeri. Instalasi sistem KA Clips ini digunakan sejak tahun 1998, tercatat hingga 2018 populasinya hampir mencapai seluruh Pulau Jawa. Kami tak hanya menghasilkan pelopor dan inovator, tapi juga manusia yang peduli akan sesama. Untuk bersama tumbuh melampaui apa yang dibayangkan. Melahirkan orang-orang yang melihat pada sudut keindahan di balik hitungan struktur dan bangunan. Manusia yang berpikiran jauh pada masa depan. Dan orang-orang yang percaya bahwa inovasi akan memudahkan kehidupan. Generasi yang cepat tanggap terhadap perubahan, peka terhadap lingkungan sekitar, dan mampu berinovasi di tengah himpit bencana untuk melindungi dan menyelamatkan sesama. Kami percaya adalah tugas kami untuk terus membangun dan menginspirasi bangsa. ITS berdedikasi untuk terus berkontribusi demi kejayaan Indonesia. Technology for Prosperity.
Technology for Prosperity. That was such a great video from Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember. And to start this event together, let's sing Indonesia Raya and the hymn of ITS. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up.
Indonesia, kebangsaan yang ku cinta, ibu yang umur ikhlas, amanah kokoh telah merekatmu membina putra putrimu, menuntun teknologi yang canggih, berbudi agung dan cerdas, menuju kesejahteraan bangsa dan umat manusia. Amatanku, kan ku turut pimpinanmu, jadi pejuang yang takkan kenal letih membangun negeri. Hidup Indonesia, hidup Indonesia, amatanku jaya.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. You may have your seat back. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now we would like to invite the chairman of Senta 2020 to deliver the opening report and also the welcoming speech. To Professor Iketut Arya Priya Utama, the stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Dr. Trika Pitana, Dean Faculty of Marine Technology ITS, Profesor Muhammad Ashari, Rector Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, welcome you all to Senta 2020. First, let me inform you preparation activities prior to the conference. The International Conference on Marine Technology and Related Fields, which is popularly known as Senta, is an annual conference organized by the Faculty of Marine Technology, Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember. The conference was firstly commenced in 2001 and called Seminar Nasional Teknologi dan Aplikasi Kelautan, National Seminar on Marine Technology and Application, and presented in Indonesian language. Since 2006, the annual national conference has turned into an international conference in order to expand the network of research among participants and later named Senta. This year's conference is the sixth Senta with a special theme, transformation from archipelagic into maritime states for prosperous Indonesia. Senta 2020 is very special because at the same time we celebrate the 60 years of higher education in marine technology in Indonesia and the 60 years of Faculty of Naval Architecture, now we call Faculty of Marine Technology, Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember. Ladies and gentlemen, the delegates of Senta 2020 come from 9 countries. In total, there are 81 papers, including from the United Kingdom, South Korea, Japan, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, United States, and Indonesia. All accepted papers after reviewing process will be published under IOP Proceeding Series. This is a Scopus Index, although the final decision of publication is with the IOP. Today, we will have a special report on joint research achievement presented by Dr. Rafek Emetkut from the University of Strathclyde as a joint work between ITS and Strathclyde. Thank you very much for Dr. Rafek Emetkut. Later, we will have 4 very special keynote speakers. We would like to thank very much to 1. Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro, President of the Indonesian Academy of Sciences, IP. 2nd, Professor Jason Patrick Monty, Head of Department of Mechanical Engineering, the University of Melbourne, Australia. 3rd, Professor Jeom Ki Paik, Professor of Safety Engineering, Pusat National University, and Professor of Marine Technology, University of College London. Last but not least, we will have Professor Mehmet Atlar, Professor of Naval Hydrodynamics and Director of Research at the Department of Naval Architecture, Ocean and Marine Engineering, the University of Strathclyde, UK. Finally, and on behalf of the seminar committees, I would be very grateful if Professor Muhammad Ashari, Rector of ITS, could deliver your welcome speech and open the Senta 2020 conference formally. And for the rest of you, please enjoy the seminar. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Well, thank you for Professor Iketut Arya Priya Utama as the chairman of Senta 2020. The next welcome speech will be delivered by Dr. Trika Pitana as the Dean of Faculty of Marine Technology. To Dr. Trika Pitana, the time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Very good morning all of you. Distinguished Rector of ITS, Professor Dr. Muhammad Ashari, Head of Naval Architecture Department, Dr. Wasis Dwi Aryawan, Chairman of the Committee, Professor Dr. Iketut Priya Utama, distinguished keynote speakers, Professor Sumantri Bojonegoro, President of Indonesian Academy of Science, Professor Mehmet Altra from University of Strathclyde, Professor Zeum K. Paik from Pusat National University, South Korea, Professor Jason Monti from University of Melbourne, Australia, distinguished presenter Dr. Rafet Ekurt from University of Strathclyde, United Kingdom, distinguished lecturers, contributing authors, seminar delegates, experts, scholars, all students, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, welcome to the opening ceremony of the 5th International Conference on Marine Technology. I would like to thank all of you for participation in Senta 2020 or International Conference on Marine Technology 2020. Even though we are in unusual condition, we are in COVID-19 pandemic condition which is facing all over the world. We have the same condition. And I'm delighted to see that many participants whom I know have high academic and professional reputation. I'm pleased and honored to join you during the opening this seminar. I wish to warmly thank our hosts for their dedication in preparing important international seminar, and notably Chairman of Senta 2020, Professor Dr. Iketut Priya Utama, and Dr. Wasis Dwi Aryawan as Head of Naval Architecture Department, all local and international organizing committee, ITS TV, and public relation of ITS. Ladies and gentlemen, this seminar has a significant meaning for ITS, especially all departments in Faculty of Marine Technology. We do hope this seminar will become an important benchmark for the development of new interdisciplinary approach in the region in the field of marine technology, consisting of naval architecture, ship production and marine technology, marine robotics and digital ship technology, marine and safety engineering, marine renewable energy, offshore and coastal engineering, shipping, port and maritime logistics, maritime education and training, as well as any related marine technology. This seminar, as mentioned by the chairman, is conducted annually, and this is the 5th international seminar, which 6 years ago was national conference. Eventually, the level of seminar rise to be international conference. We do hope that this forum is more focused on creating and expanding professional network to foster the relationship between the university, industry, business community across the country. Finally, sincerely appreciation is expressed to all speakers contributing to our conference. Special thanks are also to all keynote speakers and all committee for the effort in preparing the manuscript and managing this session respectively. Wish the seminar accomplished successfully. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Trika Pitana, for his welcoming speech. And ladies and gentlemen, now we would like to invite to the stage the Rector of Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember. It is now my deep pleasure to introduce him, Profesor Muhammad Asari, as the Rector of Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rector of Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember. But before that, we are going to watch this special video from ITS.
Berawal dari mimpi membangun negeri, Yayasan Perguruan Tinggi Teknik didirikan dari tangan Dr. Angka Nitisastro dan PII Jawa Timur. 3 tahun berlalu, statusnya pun berubah menjadi Institut Teknologi 10 November Surabaya. Perubahan menjadi perguruan tinggi menetapkan disnatalis pertama jatuh tanggal 10 November. Fakultas-fakultas baru pun dibuka. Tahun 77, pembangunan kampus Sukolilo dimulai dan diresmikan 5 tahun kemudian. Pengembangan SDM pun melahirkan doktor-doktor baru. Hingga 2008, ITS ditetapkan sebagai Badan Layanan Umum. Ditetapkan sebagai PTNBH, ITS kini melakukan pengelolaan otonom di bidang akademik, norma, dan seluruh kebijakan operasional. Berbagai inovasi diciptakan, salah satunya mobil listrik yang kini telah menjadi mobil listrik nasional. Prestasi demi prestasi pun diraih. kemajuan ITS tentu tidak lepas dari perjuangan para rektor dalam memimpin kampus ini ke arah yang lebih baik.
Perkembangan teknologi terus bergerak dinamis dan mempercepat pembangunan masyarakat masa kini. Program ID 4.0 diusung untuk mempersiapkan ITS menjadi Education, World Class Research, dan Innovative University 4.0 agar selalu menjadi institusi pendidikan yang terdepan di bidang teknologi. Penyempurnaan ITS tidak akan pernah berhenti demi kejayaan Ibu Pertiwi.
ke-60 tahun. Technology for Prosperity.
Well, that was such a great video of how ITS was made, including the history of ITS. And ladies and gentlemen, due to pandemic COVID-19 that has been affecting our life for almost a year, this is a recap of how ITS make a contribution to a better surrounding in this pandemic situation.
Virus corona bisa menyebabkan pneumonia.
Corona di Indonesia semakin hari terus bertambah. Kasus baru positif
Pemerintah mengumumkan dalam satu hari kemarin ada
total pasien yang positif
kasus baru positif.
Pemerintah menetapkan status kedaruratan kesehatan masyarakat.
Masa-masa saat ini memang terasa sulit untuk dijalani. Semua orang tengah berjuang demi dirinya, keluarganya, dan ada pun yang bertaruh nyawa untuk menyelamatkan manusia lainnya. Memang, tak ada kepastian tentang kapan pandemi ini akan berakhir. Namun, satu hal yang pasti, bahwa kami tidak akan menyerah pada pandemi ini. Sesegera mungkin, setelah kabar virus COVID-19 memasuki negeri, kami membentuk Satgas khusus untuk penanganan corona di lingkungan kampus. Kami juga mengubah sistem pembelajaran agar dapat dilaksanakan dari rumah, termasuk para mahasiswa yang belum bisa kembali ke rumah. Kami berharap bantuan yang kami berikan cukup untuk mereka. Bahkan, kami bersyukur bila sempat mengantarkan mereka pulang sampai depan rumah masing-masing dengan selamat. Tentunya dengan penanganan khusus agar tak turut menyebarkan virus ke keluarga yang disayang. Kami tak dapat berdiam diri mendapati masyarakat di sekitar kami susah karena pandemi. Sebagai garda depan, kami membuka medical center yang siap melayani siapapun yang bergejala dengan perlengkapan yang memadai. Dengan bantuan beberapa mahasiswa, kami berhasil melakukan penyemprotan desinfektan ke pemukiman penduduk agar terhindar dari wabah. Tidak hanya kami, banyak yang berdonasi untuk mereka yang membutuhkan, agar kami dan alumni dapat salurkan bingkisan-bingkisan bantuan untuk bertahan. Hingga saat ini, sumbangsih pun masih terus bergulir. Kami bersyukur dapat berbagi apalagi tetap produktif di tengah pandemi. Seiring ditingkatkannya kebiasaan hidup bersih, kami membantu memproduksi sendiri dan mendistribusikan hand sanitizer. Sayuran organik pun tetap kami tanam. Di tengah pandemi, kami selaku sivitas akademik, mulai dari dosen, mahasiswa, alumni, serta karyawan, berhasil memproduksi alat pelindung diri untuk melindungi para petugas medis. Sampai kami tersadar, apa yang kami buat telah sampai ke segala penjuru negeri. Pikir kami tak cukup sampai di situ untuk membantu. Segala ilmu yang kami punya kami kolaborasikan untuk menciptakan karya. Berawal dari kerjasama, tukar pikiran, dan merespon isu yang terjadi. Kami ingin membuat langkah nyata dalam setiap inovasi. Mulai dari sebuah bilik, alat medis, hingga robot pintar. Kami buat untuk meringankan kerja para pejuang pandemi. Buah pikiran itu tak hanya berhenti setelah diluncurkan. Tentu, masih banyak pengembangan yang harus dilakukan agar kemajuan teknologi terus berjalan.
Anda menghalangi jalan saya.
Terima kasih untuk semua yang telah berjuang. Semoga kita terus dapat menyebarkan kebaikan di tengah kesulitan. Karena pandemi bukan penghalang kita untuk berbagi, berkolaborasi, dan berkontribusi.
That was a video recap on how ITS make a better contribution for a better living and a better surrounding for us during this pandemic situation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we will together see a performance by Paduan Suara Mahasiswa ITS and also the winner of ITS Sportainment. Enjoy!
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see. I'm just a poor boy, innocent, because I'm easy come, easy go, little high, little low. Shivers down my spine, body's taking all its time. Goodbye, everybody, I've got to go. Gotta leave you all behind and face the truth. Sometimes wish I never been born at I see this little darkness, Scaramouche, believe in the fandango, under the lightning, lightning. Just a poor boy, nobody loves me. He's just a poor boy from a poor family, sparing his life from this monstrous dream. Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Peace be. No, we will not let you go. Let me go. Peace be. No, we will not let you go. Let me go. Peace be. No, we will not let you go. Let me go. We will not let you go. Let me go. We will let me go. Let me go. Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, let me go. Please, there's a new one set for me, for me, for me.
Such an amazing performance from paduan suara mahasiswa Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember. And ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we would like to invite Professor Muhammad Asari as Director of Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember to deliver his welcoming speech. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Director of ITS. Please give a warm applause.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. The honorable, the distinguished guest speakers, Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro, the President of the Indonesian Academy of Science (IP), as the keynote speech. Also, good morning and welcome to Professor Jason Manti from the University of Melbourne, Australia. Professor Jim K. Pike from Pusat National University. Also Professor Mehmet Adlar from University of Strathclyde. The Chairman of Senta, all Senta committee and members, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. First of all, on behalf of Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, ITS, I would like to very good welcome to you and very good morning that we are in a good healthy this morning to attend this kind of conference. Ladies and gentlemen, for this moment, I would like to thanks very much for Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro, the Jason Park and all the speakers that in this event we would like to listen, to share the idea, the knowledge, and also experience with us today. So, as mentioned at the chairman, this conference is initially firstly carried out in 2001, and then now is the 5th of Senta International Seminar. So for this event, I would like to give appreciation, especially for the Department of Faculty of Marine Technology, that this international seminar would be improved or a good environment, especially international environment for kids. So as we know, the Faculty of Marine Technology, it was firstly established in 1960 as the Department of Architecture, or we call it FMA, and then transformed to today as Faculty of Maritime in ITS. And as we know, the vision of ITS, Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember, commit to be international or world-class university that also innovation, yeah. So to develop innovation, especially to develop with collaboration or relate to industry and maritime. this institute, ITS, was established in 1960, that projected as the biggest or the best institute of technology, especially to support maritime. It was inaugurated by the first president of Indonesia, Bapak Insinyur Soekarno, in 1960. So I strongly recommend support the seminar on technology and application, or Senta, because this is a media for sharing and exchange idea and information, and also effort to improve the quality of research and academics for ITS as well as for all participants. Therefore, this conference is also a part of a 60th anniversary of ITS, which is the head committee of the 60th anniversary of ITS is Dr. Trika, that is now also the Dean of Faculty of Maritime. So I would like to thanks again, especially for committee, for chairman, for Dean of Faculty of Maritime Technology, and also especially thank you very much for distinguished speakers and participants today. So I wish that by discussion, sharing experience in this conference, we would give fruitful ideas and fruitful another research and action for prosperity of our society. So thank you very much. Happy seminar, happy conference, and stay healthy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Parah sih. Well, thank you very much, Professor Muhammad Asari, for the welcoming speech. And ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to move to our next agenda. That is the presentation of Safe Mode Project. Safe Mode Project is a collaboration research between ITS and Strathclyde University, UK. They aim to develop a novel human risk-informed framework to be able to identify, collect, and assess human factors data. And now please welcome Dr. Rafi Emekkert from Strathclyde University, UK.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I hope you can hear me clearly. Can you hear me clearly? Yeah. Is my voice coming clearly to present to viewers? Yeah.
Kalau
No?
ganti
Yes, Dr. Kurt, it is clear.
kayak barusan nih.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Sorry. So it is first of all, thank you very much for inviting me today to here. In 2016, I was in Senta conference, and it is my pleasure to be here again after 4 years. Although this time I am not physically there, but it is still great honor to kind of like present in front of you and continue establishing good relationships with Indonesia and with the distinguished researchers there. Without further delay, I want to start my presentation. Today I'm going to present the next level of our cooperation with our colleagues from ITS and Indonesia, which is a project called SafeMode. The SafeMode project is funded by European Union, around 10 million euros of overall budget. And we are trying to focus to resolve human factor issues in maritime and aviation fields. So SafeMode was prepared against a European Union call, which was, the topic was asking us to conduct a study on following aspects. So compile and analyze a large quantity of global real-world incident and near misses and other safety events data, and use these data to develop improved methodologies to address human factors with risk-based comprehensive design models and operational safety assessment for waterborne and air transportation. So this was the biggest funding that made available for aviation and maritime to cooperate together in the field of human factors. So that's why it is quite an important topic as well. So I want to give a little bit of a background where we came from to the SafeMode idea. Human operators play crucial roles in safe and efficient conduct of maritime and air transportation operations. Yet the human factors discipline, data, and available techniques are rarely applied at the design and safety assessment stages when they can be most effective. The problem lies, firstly, in the scarcity of human factors data, right from investigation of safety events, and secondly, in the lack of effective feedback loops from operations back to designers. So we don't have enough system in place to let the ship designer know what human factor issues exist in these ships that we design. Therefore, currently, the only recommendations likely to be seen as cost-effective are changes to training on procedures, yeah? In terms of, in other words, training or telling operators how to cope with the poorly designed system. So what we are trying to do is, instead of designing the system for human use, we are trying to train human to use a system which is poorly designed. So SafeMode is trying to address these challenges, and we thought we should inform designer. So the designer, first of all, is not a human factors expert in maritime. Human risk informed design, HURIT, this is what we call it, needs to inform them with relevant practicable information and tools so that they can be supported in the process of design and they can integrate human factors into the system, into their design. So type of things we want HURIT to answer is what went wrong before with this type of system or operation in interface. So we want to tell designers this information. What are the key human performance drivers with this type of situation? Where do I focus? What is considered best practice in those areas? So we also need to answer this question for the designers as well. And what are the tools or models I need to apply? So designer, if as an overall approach, if SafeMode project provides this human-informed design framework which addresses these questions, we believe that we can make positive changes in the design of ships so that we can achieve human-oriented ship design. So SafeMode aims to correct this issue via improved assessment and management of human risk factors within a risk-based design and operation framework for maritime and aviation industries in order to facilitate the involvement of human factor disciplines and techniques in the design and safety assessment stages. So after SafeMode, we expect that there is more human factors knowledge generated, and we start seeing more human factor issues being addressed at the design stage rather than at the operation stage. So we will achieve this through strengthening synergies between aviation and maritime sectors, because aviation through the years spent a lot of time on human factors and human-oriented design, and maritime will cooperate to learn from each other. And we are also trying to achieve this through enhancing human factors in transport safety while acknowledging the specifics of each sector. So we are aware that although the project is conducted by aviation and maritime partners, we are aware that two sectors are not identical. So our approach should ensure that we are addressing the specifics of each sector. So the objectives of SafeMod is first, data. We know that there is no human factors data available in terms of maritime and also limited in aviation when we focus on the design aspects. So SafeMod, first objective is to collect, analyze, structure safety data into an open data repository called SHIELD for both maritime and aviation sectors. Second objective is to define sustainable state-of-the-art standards for human factor analysis for safety events in maritime and aviation domains, which is founded on SHIELD. And third objective is to design and develop a risk-informed framework to support human factor analysis in design and operations. We call this HURID in short. And we will validate our approaches through domain case studies, real case studies through our end users. And objective 4 is customize HURID to the specific characteristics of maritime and aviation domains in order to maximize its effectiveness while distilling and leveraging common lessons and best practices across the two sectors. Finally, objective 5 is support regulators with guidelines and recommendations for effective and sustainable human factor analysis of safety events within Just Culture framework to encourage reporting and learning from operations. So we want to make real impact, not a research study that will stay on the shelf, but the research will be transferred or given to the regulators so that we can make real change. So before I proceed with the project's scope and what we are trying to achieve, it is going to be important to introduce the distinguished partners of SafeMod Consortium. So SafeMod Consortium has 35 partners. As I said, it is 10 million euros funded by the European Union, and we have 35 high-quality partners. Some of the research core partners, we divided these partners into different sectors in order to establish a better communication. So the core team, which wrote the project and kind of like designed the concept, is the ones that you see on this slide. Deep Blue, the first one on the left top corner, is the aviation coordinator, and Strathclyde University is the maritime coordinator of the SafeMod project. So we also have really good partners from such as European Aviation Safety Agency, which is a regulator. We have air traffic controllers, Eurocontrol. We have NLR and ENAC, which are designers of airplanes. We also have maritime side. We have Chalmers University of Technology, quite a human factors area. We have ITU, we have World Maritime University, we have NTUA and University of Patras, etc. So quite a lot of partners, as well as kind of equipment suppliers such as Wärtsilä, and we have our IT partner BBI and many others that I don't count specifically here that you can see on the slide. Then we have our end user partners, another category, which includes Airbus, Embraer, TUI, and Ryanair from aviation side. And from maritime side, we have Kalmak Ferries, which is a biggest ferry operator in UK, and Kongsberg, as well as APNA, which is a crewing agency, and RSSB, which is the only rail partner that we have. They are transferring knowledge from rail industry. Then, for the first time in SafeMod project, we included overseas partners. The idea behind this was European Union wants to achieve wider impact in aviation through One Sky initiative, and in maritime we know all the seafarers, it's a global industry. So if we want to achieve safety, it will be achieved through globally rather than only in Europe. So that's why we selected and through utilizing our existing good relationships with ITS, and since ITS is representing, also engaged with ASEAN, I think, Universities Association, so we found it very good point that can expand SafeMode's impacts in Indonesia and in neighboring countries. We also have Wuhan University of Technology from China, and we also have FastCat, which is from Philippines, ferry operator, biggest ferry operator in Philippines, I think. On top of this, we have Industrial Advisory Board of, at the moment, 40 members, which includes European Maritime Safety Agency. European Maritime Safety Agency is closely communicating with the project and taking the findings. And we are open for inviting new partners into our advisory board. So if there are industry members or academic members interested, we will be very happy to welcome them into the advisory board. So the challenge that SafeMode is trying to address is decoding the human factors iceberg. This is what we call it. But in order to explain it, if we look at maritime accidents, we have the first layer, which is the easy to see layer, so easy to blame as well. What happened, who did what, and this layer includes information on the facts, but not so much why. In the second layer, if we go one level deeper, we have human performance issues, which is interactions between system elements, people, procedures, equipment, human performance envelope factors affecting the performance. If we go one level more down, then we will start seeing work as done, which is the way job is really done against how designers have intended it in Safety 2 paradigm. So if we go one more level down, then we have culture, which is a fusion of professional, organization, and national culture affecting the human performance and safety. So in the maritime accident investigations, we clearly see the first layer, but we do not very much see effectively the underlying layers. That's why we called it an iceberg. So we only look at the tip of the iceberg, and we lose a lot of information about how it is developed in the accident investigations. And we made a presentation to European Maritime Safety Agency about this, and this was also confirmed by them. So we want to deliver our expected impact in two separate ways. First way is the data-driven way, so we will generate the data that is required. Second way is the change of behavior, so we will create enough knowledge, tools for the stakeholders so that they can address this. And aim is to find and correct the real causes, not the ones that are seen clearly, but the ones which are really causing these problems. So do we get deep enough data? These are the issues. A lot of details exist for the major accidents, but less details about but more data about incidents and near misses. So we need to somehow find a way to learn from these incidents and near misses as well. So likely to miss the context, for example, local constraints, local rationality, organizational and cultural aspects, these things also are generally quite often missed, so we need to address them. So we are trying to change the behavior across different communities. It is not only, we are not trying to aim focusing on one specific issue, but we are trying to create impact in various different stakeholders. So this infographic here is trying to demonstrate that we have aviation and maritime issues, such as it can be aviation collision or maritime collision, or it can be aviation air traffic controllers performance, which put these airplanes close enough to each other, or we have vessel traffic controllers from maritime side. So the systems are similar, and we try to work with various aspects of the safety to ensure safety across the board. So the aim is to change how things are done here before. So we want to change the current way of doing things. It's quite an ambitious project. And we want, our scope relates to the design and operations, but also what is reported and how it is reported. Because if we cannot change how things are reported, we will not be able to learn the right information to change the design. So, of course, there are some issues. Behavior change is costly. Human factor integration may be very costly. So human factor studies are very costly, and we will not be able to achieve doing same level of analysis in every single aspect of the system. So sustainable methods in terms of resources and proportionate to the level of risk is important. So we have methodologies to address how much human factors is needed to solve a certain problem. And we also user-centered refinement of HF toolkit, risk models considering end users' needs and challenges. So we try to tailor our toolkit according to the case that we are looking at as well. So the project is organized in 9 different work packages. So each work package has a specific target to achieve these overall aims. In work package 2, we are looking at developing a shield database and a specific taxonomy. The objectives are developed the human factors taxonomy for risk analysis. So we have completed developing our taxonomy. We have a new human factors taxonomy that started recently populating data in it. Develop open data repository for safety occurrence reports and safety relevant human performance and contextual data. So we will make these available openly for designers and relevant stakeholders. Collect data and develop automatic data and text mining processes to identify incident types, human performance events, contextual conditions. So it's basically automatically analyzing data, and determine statistical measures of human performance for air transport and marine risk models. So this is work package 2. Once work package 2 is complete, we have work package 3, which focuses on developing toolkits that are necessary. So we called it human assurance toolkits. Development of methodologies for assuring human performance. So what designers need to know, we are trying to address these things in this work package. What designers needs to know about human performance, we will develop specific checklists to ensure that the most common aspects are not missed in the design. How much human factors is needed, which is important, as I mentioned before, human factors is expensive, so it is important that we identify for a specific system how much human factors is needed. So we have a methodology called human assurance levels, which will ensure how much we need to focus our efforts on. Which methods and techniques can be used? So guidance material, we will help designers to systematically solve human performance related problems through techniques. Which methods can be selected considering level of maturity? Because it is also important that the organization can apply these. So based on their maturity, we will try to give them tools to address human factor issues. And this is going to be done through human factor standards of excellence. How do I measure the safety impact of human performance? So we will also develop human reliability models to ensure this. So, yeah. And then we move after these toolkits, then we move into work package 4, which is human factor risk models. So the objective is to develop a set of quantified safety risk models for aviation and maritime, representing the major accident categories in each sector. So for example, from aviation, we have mid-air collisions, runway excursions, and for maritime, we have ship collisions and grounding accidents. And we want to include human actions and influences in these models, because collision models may already exist, but human actions and influences are not integrated into these, which prevents us developing human-specific risk control measures. Yeah? So the models will be based on incidents and occurrences identified in the maritime and aviation industries. That's why work package 2 data will become important. And we'll provide quantified approach that allows human actions to be understood in relation to any incident. For both positive and negative contributions will be taken into account, and the key factors that influence human performance will be described. The resulting models will satisfy following requirements. So allow designers to understand potential impact of their design on human performance. Allow designers to be targeted at minimizing current human factor problems and significantly boosting the chances of recovery from the system failures and adverse events. And provide a repository for quantified human contributions to events. The models, the approach that we adopted in the models can be summarized in 3 stages. So if this is our safety risk model, we have a backbone that is designed. So on top of the backbone, we have the accidents such as collision accident, and we put all the barriers that exist to prevent collision on board ships. This can include regulatory barriers, this can include systematic barriers, system-related barriers that are included in the ship design. And if each barrier is broken, so if one barrier is broken, we know that we are in a different safety state. Okay? So based on these, we had the idea, if we model the barriers, then we can model the quantify the outcome of the risk. Yeah? So in the next stage, we look at the contributors for each barrier's failure through a fault-free system. And we also have influence layer, which takes into account performance shaping factors, because we know human performance will be affected by external factors, and we will take them into account and update the probabilities to ensure obtaining correct outcome probability. Yeah? And these will be reported and deliverable to you. These, if we come back to this image, we have work package 2, 3, 4, which is our research work packages, and work package 5 is going to combine all the outputs in a accurate design assurance framework, which will be the main that transfers the knowledge to external bodies. So work package 5, the aim is to develop a human risk-informed design and operation framework, which will facilitate integration of human factors into system and operation design, safety assessment, and regulation in normal and emergency conditions. So we wanted our design framework to be able to capture the data from the events, conduct data analysis by using various techniques, establish safety learning, so specific and generic lessons learned are drawn into improved safety, including job and interface design, automation, etc. And then we will facilitate designers to take these lessons learned into account, and their decision making can be informed with these information. And the last step is monitoring of operations and feedback. So operations are monitored constantly for performance variations and safety exigencies. So the objectives is identify current design challenges in ship design and approaches to address human factors and use cases to use HURIT development. Harmonize and integrate work package 2, 3, 4 outcomes. So we will need to somehow gather all these research into a practical level, combine them and make it practically available. Deliver final version of HURIT, which includes tools and guidelines for the end users, and integrate HURIT framework into existing regulatory and risk-based design framework. So which is quite ambitious as well. Finally, build a mechanism for continuous monitoring and learning to address future emerging risks. So in order to ensure that what we develop here in HURIT is sustainable, we need to make it flexible, practical for end users, accessible for everyone, and sustainable, so it doesn't die when the project finishes. So in order to achieve this, we designed our impact in 3 different stages. So the pillar 1 is project web platform to allow public interaction with online forms and collect various inquiries and data. So we want to be engaged with industry and address their problems through our resources. In pillar 2, we are developing a Seabrary, which is equivalent of Skybrary. So aviation has Skybrary, which is a Wikipedia almost for aviation, for every human factor aspects that is there. So we are, at the moment, first version is ready. Soon it will become public. So Seabrary will contain an electronic repository of safety knowledge related to maritime operations, marine safety, and human factors. Pillar 3 is the eHURIT. So the platform will eventually host all the HURIT tools and other safe mode outcomes, including training modules, solutions developed in studies, etc. So through this platform, end users will be able to utilize the tools that we developed, and it will allow us to make Work package 6 and 7, once our framework is ready, then we are ready for applying it to case studies. So work package 6 and 7 is focusing on case studies. We have a set of case studies for aviation and set of case studies for maritime. These are an example list of case studies. The cases are live, so we keep on updating them. But at the moment, we have different levels of autonomy, collision avoidance. We have fire and ROPAX vessels, operator assessment and remote control ships, smart ISM, simulator-based evaluation of human response in emergencies, integrated bridge systems, alarm management, parametric rolling, optimization of the investigation process, designed for maritime end users. So after the case studies, not after actually, our dissemination and communication work package dedicated to let stakeholders, global stakeholders aware about project outcomes so that we can make continued extended impact. And this presentation is part of work package 8 that we want everybody to hear about Safe Mode. So the objectives is to widely disseminate the project activities and outcomes to a wide range of stakeholders in Europe and beyond, to engage a broad range of stakeholders from maritime and aviation sectors, to implement and update an appropriate online presence and other relevant dissemination materials, to ensure continuous outreach of the project outcomes, to reach target groups at regional, national, European, and global level, and to organize project key events and demonstrations to ensure cooperation with the most important international forums, as well as liaise with related projects and initiatives. So we have created a project webpage, so please log in and see the details, more information about SafeMod through safemodeproject.eu, which includes all main points of the project, aims, objectives, methodology, and the timeline of the project. And we also have dedicated social media accounts as well as ResearchGate accounts. Please feel free to follow if you are interested in. So we have news section, product section for deliverables. Hewlett Gateway will also become available in year 3 and will house all the tools as I mentioned before. Finally, work package 9 is the, I think we are one of the few projects which included a dedicated work package on policy impact. So work package 9 aims to support exploitation of the project results and contribute to the increase of European leadership and excellence in the area of safety in transportation, which will be achieved by engaging with key stakeholders, supporting improvement of existing regulations and policies through support project outputs, submitting notes and papers and proposals into international areas, such as IMO, EASA, ICAO, or regional, national, and European worldwide uptake, developing educational and training for policymakers and training institutions. So we have World Maritime University in our consortium, who is going to convert the project outcomes into papers to be submitted to International Maritime Organization. So this was all I wanted to cover. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm very happy to take up your questions if there are any.
Well, that was such a nice presentation from Dr. Rafe Emekert from Strathclyde University of UK. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question regarding the SafeMod project, you can simply use the raise hand button via the Zoom application, or just simply send your question via the chat column that has been provided. We are going to wait for your question. Okay, once again, if you guys have any questions, you can just simply use the raise hand button via the application Zoom, or just leave the question in the column chat that has been provided. We are waiting for your question. So once again, SafeMod project is a collaboration research between ITS and Strathclyde University of UK. This project is a collaboration research in developing a novel human risk-informed framework to be able to identify, collect, and assess human factors data. And the presentation was given from Dr. Rafe Emmekert from Strathclyde University, UK. We're still waiting for your questions. If you have any question, you can just simply use the raise hand button or just leave the question in the chat column that has been provided. Okay, we are still waiting for the questions. Because I guess there are no questions. Okay, we are still waiting for the question. Once again, if you have any questions regarding the Safe Mode project, you can just simply use the raise hand button or just chat via the column chat at the Zoom application. Okay, I guess there are no questions for the Safe Mode project. Once again, thank you very much for Dr. Rafe Emmekert from the Strathclyde University of UK. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to our main program. That is the first plenary session that will be led by Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro as the President of Indonesian Academy of Science. And the second keynote speaker is Professor Jason Monti as the Head Department of Mechanical Engineering from University of Melbourne, Australia. But before that, let us introduce our great moderator who will guide this plenary session. Welcome Professor Iketut Arya Priyautama as the Chairman of Senta 2020. For Professor Iketut Arya Priyautama, the time is yours.
Thank you, the MC. Very good morning, everybody, audience, distinguished guests. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Again, I introduce myself, Professor Iketut Arya Priyautama. I work at the Department of Naval Architecture at the Institut Teknologi Sepuluh Nopember. This morning, we will have two keynote speakers as mentioned by the MC. First, Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro. Okay, let me quickly inform you the short CV of Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro. He is an emeritus professor in mechanical engineering, Institut Teknologi Bandung, and currently President or Chairman of the Indonesian Academy of Sciences, IP. Professor Satrio Sumantri has a long and distinguished academic and public service career. He was a faculty member of the Mechanical Engineering Department, Institut Teknologi Bandung, for more than 30 years since 1980, serving as department chairman between 1992 and 1995. Vice Dean of Academic Affairs, 1995 to 1998. From 1999 to 2007, he served as Director General of Higher Education, Ministry of National Education, Republic of Indonesia. He obtained his PhD in Mechanical Engineering from the University of California, Berkeley in 1985. And his research areas include tribology, fracture mechanics, finite element analysis, mechanical design, and higher education development and policy. He is a fellow of the Indonesian Academy of Sciences, IP, since 2008, and now the president. Currently, he serves also as visiting professor in mechanical engineering at Toyohashi University of Technology, Japan. In April 2018, he was appointed as a special advisor to Coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs, Republic of Indonesia. Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro will talk about in the sea will we triumph. Okay, We provide 30 minutes, Professor Satrio, for your presentation, and there will be 15 minutes for question and answer. So for the audience, later you can raise hand on your system so we can check who is asking to Professor Satrio. Okay, the time is now yours, Professor Satrio. Please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Ketut. Can you hear my voice? Can you hear my? I hope
Yes.
it's okay, right? Okay. I will start my presentation by showing these slides. Okay, the theme is, or the idea is, in the sea will we triumph? Because you know that around 2/3 of Indonesian territory is sea, connecting two continents and two oceans. Should Indonesia transform the sea into a source of strength and greatness, as it was then the ancient Sriwijaya and Majapahit empires were at the height of their golden age, how can science and technology help us restore our maritime greatness? Our sea make up 5.8 million square kilometers of the total area of Indonesia, including the exclusive economic zone. Indonesia has the second longest coastline in the world and over 17,504 islands spread over the expanse. How will the sea shape Indonesia's present and future? To what extent can we utilize the sea's wealth, its bio and natural resources, so that Indonesian people can prosper? Answering these questions needs efforts through multidisciplinary research in science and technology. The major maritime industrial sectors, energy, food, transportation, plus defense and security, demand a skillful mastery of science and technology for mapping, monitoring, exploration, and operational services. Without mastery, we will continue to regret Indonesia's lack of engagement in high-value maritime activities in our maritime zone. How do we formulate approaches to develop science responsive to the specific and complexities of Indonesian seas? How do we select and develop technologies to support the detailed and accurate measurement and surveying of the coastal areas, the sea surface, water column, seabed, and those levels below the base data in formulating such approaches? The seas are typified by diverse coastal characteristics, covering vast shallow waters, below which can be found through the extreme depth of or gigantic active volcanoes, and above them are scattered thousands of small islands. How do we develop knowledge of our own seas? Developing technology relevant to Indonesia requires a huge effort and therefore should be strategically based on the fundamental research agenda related to the character and behavior of the archipelagic seas. Furthermore, is there a local wisdom providing insight? What deep understanding of seas is preserved within the stories, customs, and skills handed down from generation to generation in coastal communities? Maritime sovereignty will only be obtained once we master knowledge of our own seas. Equipment, sensing, vehicle technologies, and data and information management will be the path through which we will satisfy our curiosity. We need to get better at mapping, measurement, surveying, and monitoring in sea exploration. To collect the data, we need to engage in the ongoing development and improvement of technologies, such as electromagnetic and acoustic for sensor and instruments, unmanned and wireless underwater vehicles, and developing new uses of satellite, aircraft, vessel, and buoy technology. This technology enables data capture in more accurate, thorough, and cutting-edge manner. Advanced comprehensive analysis will undoubtedly provide answers to key questions. What is the nature and behavior of the sea surface, body, and seabed of Indonesian waters? What sort and what amount of reserve are available? What is the distribution of the rich maritime reserve of Indonesia? Both the bio and natural resources, from shallow coastal waters to ocean depth. Bioresources. The distribution of Indonesian archipelagic is influenced by many factors, from dynamics of plate tectonics to human activities such as shift and land use, rapid industrialization, and population increase. Information on the distribution pattern of bioresources, including marine resources, can be obtained through monitoring and exploration technologies, supported by information and communication technology for comprehensive result. Thus, accurate operational service for public, such as fishermen, farmers, and for transport system, as well as for defense and security, will be available. Satellite sensing technology has been able to survey several parameters, such as sea surface color, height, waves, temperature, wind, and air layer characteristics. This technology can also map tiny islands in remote regions, and even using certain sensors, penetrate deep into water columns to sense the water's physical characteristic and the dynamics of internal waves. It can penetrate down to the seabed to map the sea depth, coral reefs, and seagrass. Furthermore, satellite technology has produced relatively low-cost microsatellites. Acoustic equipment can reach water columns and the seabed to predict fish stocks, estimate water quality, measure currents, map the seabed and geothermal potential, oil and gas resources, as well as deep sea minerals. Underwater acoustic equipment can also be employed as an approach to detect geomagnetic fields, earthquake and tsunami risk, as well as to support military interest. The challenges of maritime monitoring and exploration are met through adequate equipment, appropriate sensors, and vehicles that can move freely in water columns and on the surface. Such vessels must also be stable even in the turbulent open sea. Developing such vessels can help us to meet future needs for natural gas and oil exploration, fisheries, offshore aquaculture, and transportation. And the last thing is about the real-time data application. Communication system for maritime application have developed rapidly, for example, the GSM, global system for mobile communication technology, radio, and satellite communication. However, Indonesia's topographical condition vary greatly from the seabed to the islands with highlands, demanding non-conventional communication technology. How can we relay real-time data from the seabed to the surface accurately? How can we prevent signals from being obstructed by highland masses? How can we develop science and technology to meet the specific needs of Indonesian archipelago? How can we prevent significant losses due to the lack of knowledge of our seas? So this is a thing I think we like to share with you, and I hope in this important meeting and conference, you will be able to come up with all idea, concept, and technology to, again, make sure that our sea will benefit the most for Indonesian prosperity. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
For your nice presentation, Professor Satrio Sumantri. It is a very interesting information, knowledge to us. I let the audience, the participants, if you have any questions to Professor Satrio Sumantri. You can raise your hand through the system. Okay, while waiting to the audience, let me ask you, Professor Satrio. You mentioned that there are a lot of idea, technology we could develop actually to triumph the sea for Indonesia and as one of the biggest archipelagic in the world. If we copy the idea of China, actually, China now actually expand the maritime force around the world, including close to the Indonesian border now in this economic exclusive zone. We would like to know your idea, maybe your insight. What should we do actually to copy that idea when we can implement to the islands of Indonesia?
Make the benefit of our sea maximum for our prosperity. But if we don't have, if we don't appear, or if nobody is around the borderline, for example, then easily the foreign vessels will try to enter our zone or our region. So again, the idea is how to cover our sea, especially in the borderline, by having the activity of sea and marine operation, not in sense of defense purpose, but in terms of how to utilize our sea for our prosperity. For example, the activity in the islands, in the borderline, because we already have the UNO Declaration. That means our sea coverage is along the outer side of our islands. So in the outer islands, or the islands near the border, we have to have enough activity, for daily life. We present ourselves. Look, we are here. If we are there, then nobody will try to disturb us. But if we are not there, easily foreigner will come, and even our people living in the outer island will also be happy if they get support from outside. So we have to support them. So I think the program of President Jokowi to make sure that the outer islands will be taken care properly is a good one. And this maritime approach is one of the things how do we protect and how we prosper all the people living in the outer island. With that case, I think we should be able to cover our territory. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Professor Satrio. Yes, I agree with you. I think any activities, any industrial work could expand to the border. And I think now we have 3 Kogab Wilhan and 3 maritime commando actually spread Indonesia actually to secure our ocean to Indonesian people. Actually, we can live better from the sea.
Right.
Thank you, Professor Satrio. Any questions from audience? Please raise your hand. Okay, it is a very interesting discussion. So you need to ask Professor Satrio, please. Wait a minute, I think there's some question actually appear in a chat room. Okay, please show it to us, and then Professor Satrio can answer. Yuda suruh nanya. Mas Yuda suruh nanya. Yuda suruh nanya. I think to audience to raise hand and ask their questions.
Professor Ketut, could I raise a question?
Please show the questions.
Yeah, that's from Eko then.
Yes.
Prof. Eko.
Yes.
Please, Prof.
Thank you very much for the time. I would like to raise a very short question to Professor Satrio.
Yes.
Thank you very much again, Professor Satrio, to meet in this event. I would like to have your view about one of the important data that we should have for really comprehensive data on the ocean waves in Indonesia. The wave data, because we have never really established to enhance to push this program. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pak Eko, for your concern. Yes, I agree that we don't have enough data for our C behavior and characteristic. Yeah. And our office in Ministry of Maritime Affairs, they are planning to develop what they call research on ocean data. They prepare a program to conduct data observation in the sea with different characteristics. And the ministry have already proposed the program and budget to the Ministry of Finance to be able to obtain the support in order to collect Indonesian ocean data in a comprehensive way. The research will be done jointly between BPPT and also some universities, LIPI as well, and also the Center for Hydrology in our Indonesian Navy, and some other institutions. So this is a joint effort by so many institutions, because data to be collected is quite huge. It will take a lot of time to collect data. The issue now is how to develop the program to distribute the role of each institution so that the data will be complementing each other, not duplicating, and we can effectively conduct the data collection so that Indonesia soon will have the very comprehensive ocean data for many purposes, for defense purposes, for fisheries, for seabed property as well. So I think your concern has been undertaken by the ministry, and we hope that we can start to collect the data as soon as possible. Although so far we have data, but scattered only in several islands. Yeah, they know where's the deepest seabed, for example. They know where's the highest or the strong current wave in some area. But in general, the total data is not yet collected because our sea is quite wide. The coverage is quite wide, so we don't only need many ships, for collecting data, but technology should be now implemented wisely. So I'm thinking of using the real data application, right, by having the remote sensing technology. So with effective resources, we can collect data accurately, even from the seabed all the way up to the surface. So we no longer need to do the conventional data collection, but we have to have the smart approach of technology, so the data itself will be collected with using the latest technology. For this purpose, maybe we have to collaborate with our colleague abroad, maybe Surfside or some other campuses, how to collect data using the technology. But remember, if using technology, if we don't have the big data facilities, what we end up with, our data will be collected somewhere, not in Indonesia. That is not good for us because our privacy will be then disturbed. So we have to have a big data system. Using the big data, we can collect the data with the technology, and we can manage and control the data. Of course, we can share with our partners abroad, but by still respecting each other privacy from one country to another country. That may be, Pak Eko, my approach idea how to collect the data for Indonesian SIS. Thank you.
It is very interesting explanation. As you mentioned that you could work together with overseas partner like Strathclyde University, but also with internal university like ITS, Hasanuddin University, and others. Prof. Eko Budijatmuluk is one of the experts in ocean engineering. Maybe he could involve in the work later. I believe when we have the ocean data, actually we can do more economically in the Indonesian sea waters. Okay, once again, thank you very much for your interesting information. Okay, we still have time actually for the audience. Okay, if you have any questions to Professor Satrio Sumantri, please. Any questions, please, from audience?
Yeah, there's Pak Yuda.
Yuda?
Pak Yuda raise hand.
Okay, please, Yuda.
Yuda Apri, please. Please.
Good morning, Professor. Thank you for the explanation.
Morning, Pak Yuda.
Hello.
Yes, please. Yes, Pak Yuda, please. Yeah. I cannot hear you.
We know Indonesia have a lot of small island, especially in the first part. So we need to develop our country, especially in the part of Indonesia. So how about the maritime sector? Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yuda, for your concern. Yes, I agree. I agree that we have to develop our small islands, especially located in the border, and to develop the islands, we have to use the big approach. For example, we have to develop the islands so that they can self-sufficient. Okay, meaning the island will develop with their own capacity and strength. Yeah, for example, if there is no electricity in that island, so we have to develop the renewable energy for the electricity, so they can have a normal living and development. So with that approach, many islands in the borderline will be developed properly, and that will be one of our strengths in preventing foreign to enter our border. Yeah, because the people living in the outer island already prosper. Yeah, they have enough living, they are good living there, so they don't need any intervention or any support from foreigners. Even they will help Indonesia to make sure that the Indonesian sea will be the sovereignty of Indonesia, because they know that without the sea, they cannot live. So we make the condition that our maritime will be the resource for their living, especially in the people living in the outer islands, in the remote or in the borderline. So how to develop the small outer islands with their own capacity, and they can become independent from support from others. For example, for electricity, yeah, we can develop the resources. For food and other need, they can get from the sea. So another thing is to make sure that our fishermen living in the small islands, they should be the very important group of people living there. Yeah, we have enough resources in maritime. Make sure the fishermen will have a good living. Yeah, not only catching the fish, but they can live by doing all this fishing and other maritime activity. So let the marine or the maritime be supporting for the small islands, both for energy, food, and health as well. So basically, I think we can do it. I think Pak Yuda can do it, right? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting explanation from Professor Satrio. When in a small remote island, actually, everything can be extracted from that island. Not just the fishing, yes, but also the energy. So we don't need to build a PLN generator in that place, because energy can be extracted from the sea, from the sun, and so on. Okay, very good idea, Professor Satrio. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We still have about 5 minutes actually for the question and answer. Please, if you have any questions from the audience.
Yeah, there is Bu Irena. Please, Bu Irena. From room 550. F50.
Yeah.
Yes, Bu, please.
Thank you for the occasion, Prof. I'm Irena from... Hello? Yeah. Yeah. About my doubt, it's about the data, about the ocean survey data. So the condition collect data widely using satellite remote sensing, but in another hand, conventional sea survey using sonar equipments provide good resolution data, very good resolution data. But for now, what I want to know is Indonesia, a large area or very good resolution data for the current situation. So that's the point.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Irina. I agree with you that we still have to combine between the big data collection, the overall data collection, and also for the conventional data collection using sonar technology for particular cases. Yeah, because Indonesia sees have a lot of specific behavior in the seabed in some areas. So still we have to combine between the overall data collection using the remote sensing technology and the specific data collection using the sonar technology if there is some indication that in some area there is a special behavior of the seabed, for example, special contour, special property, yeah. But we cannot use the technology like the sonar technology to cover all the sea area, because we also have to collect data from the seabed all the way to the surface. In between, we have to see also what is the characteristic of behavior, like the current wave, current speed in the middle level, middle layer, for example. Yeah. So again, yes, for the overall data, we use the big data collection using remote sensing technology. But for specific characteristic of our seabed, we use the traditional conventional technology. We has the high accuracy. Yeah. But sometime before you find the location of the data to be collected, you need the big data first. Yeah. Otherwise, you keep searching, but you cannot find the location because the sea area is too large, while the sonar technology only spot a very small area. Yeah, so sometimes we can miss the data if we don't have the correct location of the data to be collected, or the location data to be collected. Okay, thank you, Bu Irina. I think there's one in room its.14. Yeah, please. Room its.14.
Pak Hetaria, probably you send a message
from
to me.
Room its.14. Someone is raising hand. Yes.
Please.
Pak Wisnu.
Yeah. Good morning, Prof. Satrio.
Morning, Pak Wisnu.
Thank you for the time given to me. I just want to know your view about this.
Yeah.
That what you will be doing is need integrated policy and strong policy from the government. My example is like this. In the previous ministry, we banned export baby lobster. But sorry for asking this, but
no problem, please. Yeah.
But in this time, we opened that export policy. I'm afraid that in the long run, your good, what you will be doing is good, but it really depends on the policy of the president. It cannot, we cannot in Indonesia depend on one person only. I want to know your view about this, like the baby lobster export and so on. So we can change everything like this. Thank you very much.
Okay, Pak Wisnu, thank you for your concern. I think that is why IP is established in Indonesia. So, IP function is to provide suggestion or criticism or concept to the government based on the scientific evidence. So IP and university, of course, will work based on evidence, on truth. Okay? So with that, I think we can work together. We provide suggestion to the government, for example, based on our scientific experiment and observation, we have to do some policy, okay? But sometimes the policymaker will make their own decision. In that case, sometimes they don't follow our suggestion. Because our suggestion is based on the scientific evidence, scientific approach, and scientific truth, while the policymaker will make decision based on political interest. So in that case, if the political interest is there, we cannot say something about the politics, because IP in our institution, university also, is non-politic institution. We have to come up with the truth, with the evidence based on scientific. So what we have to do, Wisnu, is we keep informing, keep explaining to the policymaker that the thing have to be done. And we can inform them the dangers if they make a wrong policy. But after that, if they still select their own policy, we can keep trying, but we cannot force them to follow our. But I'm sure with the persistence and consistency of university and IP, for example, we can later on convince the people and the policymaker that don't make the wrong policy, don't make the policy based only on political interest, but make policy based on the need for the people, for prosperity. So I hope this will help when work, Pak Wisnu.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Satrio, for your answer, and Pak Wisnu for the very interesting questions. One question left before we close, Prof. Satrio, from Dr. Walter Hetaria from Patimura University, Nambon. Please, Dr. Hetaria.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a short question,
Pak
please.
Dekan.
Yeah, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Dean.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ikam, and good afternoon, Prof. Satrio, and ladies and gentlemen. Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Hello. Yes.
Yes, Pak.
I was interested with your explanation about the small island, Prof.
Yeah.
Maybe in Java or in other place, we cannot see the real life in the small island. But for example, in Moluccas, I usually make the survey there. And the main problem is, where is the market and what is the price?
Yeah.
They have many local resources.
Potentials.
But the problem is there. Yes. And also the access and also the transportation and anything. So when I see mostly every department go on their own project. for example,
Yes.
fishery or transportation or whatever. So it seems like we need collaborate between this department that maybe for the future IP can support us. So maybe each department cannot go in their own way, but should be some kind of integrated or a development strategy. So what is your concern about the future of IP? Thank you.
Ya, thank you Pak Dekan, Pak Robi. One thing is missing in our policy making. Yeah, usually the ministry make a program based on their interest, but very rare, very seldom that the ministry make a program for the benefit of the people. So what we have to do is IP, for example. What we will do, for example, I will collect data from Moluccas Islands, where you live, Pak Robi, and through small islands, we ask them, we identify, what do you need, right? So they have their own idea and concept based on their own local genius and their culture, because we cannot develop the small islands not in line with their culture. Otherwise, we destroy the whole living of them. So we ask them, what do you need? And then the government should fulfill their need. And I'm sure that they will not asking for many things. They will not asking for very difficult things. They will ask only, how can we live? How can we have survive? How can we have the electricity? How can we have the economic activity? That's it. We provide them. Yeah. So in that small island development approach, we cannot use market. What do you call it? Market approach. Yeah. We have to develop them. We cannot ask them to be self-sufficient and then become profitable, because the small island, the support is very minimum. But basically, every ministry, if they want to do something to the small islands, they come there and ask the people, what really do you need to be supported? And we will find out that their request is not a very simple request. Yeah? How can I eat every day? How can I send my kids to school? Yeah? How can I get a good health? How can I live? And that's it. If we fulfill them, then I hope every part of Indonesia will be prosper according to their capacity. So I hope this will answer Pak Robi.
Pak Robi Hetaria and all of the audience, it is very interesting presentation and discussion. Before I close this session, we need to answer actually the theme given by Professor Satrio, but in the sea, will we triumph? Yes, I think we will triumph, okay, by using technology, using data, involve a lot of people, and partnership, of course, among Indonesian people and overseas relevant partner. Okay, we have to work very hard, I think, Professor Satrio. Okay, thank you very much once again for your very interesting presentation. Before we close this session, please give applause to Professor Satrio Sumantri, and as a way to say thank you, he has a certificate as a keynote speaker. Okay, thank you very much, Professor Satrio. Okay, I think we can close the first keynote speaker with Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for Professor Iketut Arya Priya Utama as our moderator for this first session. And also thank you very much for Professor Satrio Sumantri Brojonegoro as the President of Indonesian Academy of Science as our keynote speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will watch this special performance by the winner of ITS Sportainment.
I'm going under, and this time I fear there's no one to save me. This all or nothing really got a way of driving me crazy. I need somebody to heal, somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold. But it's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you numbed all the pain. Now the day bleed into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. I'm going under, and this time I fear there's no one to turn to. This all or nothing way of loving got me sleeping without you. I need somebody to know, somebody to heal, somebody to have, just to know how it feels. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you help me escape. Now the day bleed into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. And I tend to close my eyes when it hurts sometimes. I fall into your arms. I'll be safe in your song till I come back around. And I tend to close my eyes when it hurts sometimes. I fall into your arms. I'll be safe in your song till I come back around.
Such an amazing performance from the winner of ITS Sportainment. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will continue to the second session of this discussion, and our keynote speakers will be Professor Jason Monty as the head of Department of Mechanical Engineering from the University of Melbourne, Australia. And please welcome our moderator, Professor Iketut Arya Priya Utama.
Thank you, MC. Welcome back to the keynote speaker. Now we arrive in session 2. We'll have Professor Jason Monty. Good afternoon in Melbourne, Jason. I think it's about 2:30 p.m. now in Melbourne. Hello, Jason. Are you there?
Hello, Professor. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Can you hear
First,
me okay?
Let me introduce yourself by reading your short CV. Professor Jason Monty is head of department and professor with fluid mechanics group in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Melbourne in Australia. After completing a PhD in fluid mechanics under the guidance of Professor Min Chong with co-supervision by Professor Perry, Jason Monty was awarded an Australian postdoctoral fellowship by the Australian Research Council. After completing the APD, Jason was offered the position of lecturer in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. In 2012, he was awarded an ARC Future Fellowship. Dr. Monty is an experimental researcher in fluid mechanics, having been invited to take measurements in facilities all over the world, including commissioning large-scale wind tunnels. His experience ranges from turbulent pipe and channel flows to tow tank tests, turbulence in air-sea interactions, and ice-wave interactions. Professor Monty is also the director of the Mitchell Hydrodynamic Laboratory, in which he has built 2 internationally unique large-scale ocean engineering facilities. The first is the 60-meter-long extreme air-sea interaction facility that is the only air-sea facility of this size capable of producing hurricane wind speeds. The second is the sea ice wind wave interaction facility, which is a 14-meter-long wave tank housed in a freezer room. These facilities have brought international collaborators to Melbourne and provided unique collaboration opportunities for Professor Monty abroad. He has active and productive collaboration across the globe, including Southampton and Toulouse in Europe, the US Naval Academy and Princeton University in US, and Singapore and Surabaya in Asia. Professor Monty has been twice to Indonesia, first at the end of 2014 actually, to start the Australia-Indonesia Center work with ITS, and second, last November, Professor Monty came to ITS under world-class professor program. Professor Monty will talk about the ship track penalty due to hull roughness. The time allocated for you, Jason, is 30 minutes, and then another 15 minutes for question and answer with the audience. Okay. I let you. The time is yours, Jason. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to see you again, Professor Utama. Thank you for the kind introduction. Yes, that's correct. Last year I was in Indonesia roughly this time, and it was a very wonderful visit. And I wish I was there now. I love coming to Indonesia. It's a beautiful country, and I love working with my colleagues there, who I'll talk about in a minute. So the work I'm going to talk to you about today We have some delay, I think, in there. Yeah. So the work I'm going to talk to you today is very much an international collaboration. We have our group here at the University of Melbourne, which is comprised of Nick Hutchins, who's the lead professor in this particular work, myself, Bagus Nugroho, who's on the line, and Kevin. These last two guys are actually from Indonesia. We have our fantastic collaborators, Ketut Atama, Professor Atama, and Ketut Swastika in ITS Surabaya, and Bharat Ganapatha Subramani in Southampton, and Mike Schultz in the Naval Academy. So it's a big group of people working truly across the world. Okay, so I'll just give you a bit of background about the problem and myself. We study the problem of turbulent boundary layers. We're actually mechanical engineers, so I think many of you in the audience will have different backgrounds. So I'll give some background on what we do. The turbulent boundary layer is very important to what we're going to talk about today, and here's a quick video describing what that is, but also showcasing the kind of experiments that we do in our towing tank. So here's a towed plate, which you might think of as the bottom of a ship, being towed past our imaging system. And with that imaging system, we can measure the turbulent boundary layer. So this flow that you can see, the red being velocity, high velocity, and the blue being low velocity, this is the turbulence that exists underneath the ship. And it's this turbulence that's responsible for the skin friction drag. The turbulence also creates a lot of mixing, so it's important for things like heat transfer and other applications. But in this particular case of ships, it's really this turbulence causing skin friction drag that is the big issue. So it's this thing that is responsible for the drag. And it's responsible for 80 to 90% of the total drag for a large ship. So it's a lot. The problem is made worse if there is roughness, and there is always roughness, whether it's because of fouling or for other reasons. So it could be imperfections in the hull, or as I'll show later, some paint imperfections. And biofouling can cause more than 100% drag, and I'll show you that in a minute. It might sound crazy, but it can. This is an example. Some of you may be familiar with this kind of a hull condition. It's a pretty bad condition, but you see it a lot in dry dock. And as I said, even a recently clean ship can exhibit surface roughness because of surface imperfections, but also because of bad paint job, which I'll show later. If I just digress a little bit, there's over 350 million tons of fuel burnt around the world, which is over $100 billion spent on fuel. And various sources indicate that it could be up to $30 billion or more that is lost due to surface roughness. So unnecessary loss. Well, depends, maybe not unnecessary, but certainly loss to biofouling that could be fixed. And I'll show you later that it could be higher than that. So you're talking huge money. All right, so how did we get into this problem? Well, many years ago, 10 years ago, we started working with DSTG. DSTG is Australia's Defence Science and Technology Organisation. So working with Defence, they're very interested in the problem of fouling. So they deployed these coupons in the ocean close to Melbourne for 2 months and then dried them. And the surface was predominantly fouled with tube worms. So we scanned this surface using a 3D laser scanner. And so actually we had the full geometry very accurately, which is great. The question is, what do we do with it? The problem is that it's very difficult, perhaps impossible, to predict the drag once you know what the surface looks like. This is kind of the holy grail of turbulence, rough wall turbulence research, is to find a way to know the drag penalty if you know the geometry of the roughness on the ship. currently, the only real way is to do wind tunnel testing to accurately know what the drag is. So that's what I want to talk to you about a bit more today, because that's my experience. So you could do wind or water tunnel testing. It doesn't matter whether you use air or water. The effect is the same if you match the conditions appropriately. So this is what we did. We took these tiles, and you can perhaps see there that the features that are replicated. So we made tiles that were an exact copy of this coupon that we pulled out of the water, and we covered the wind tunnel with it. And we used some velocity probes to measure the wind speed. And these probes can go up and down. And what that allows us to do is to get what we call the velocity profile. I'm getting some feedback here, excuse me. Not sure why that's happening. I'll carry on. The velocity profile is simply, if you can see here on the screen, is simply when we move the probe away from the wall, we can measure the velocity. And in the free stream, this is effectively the cruise speed of the ship, if you like. And as you go close to the wall, of course, the velocity decreases because of friction. Okay, so the next few slides, I'm going to explain how we use this plot to get the friction of the ship. It's a bit complicated, so if you don't follow the next 5 or 6 slides, don't worry. We'll get back on the same page shortly. Okay, so I just plotted this graph on logarithmic axes, and there's some things we know about this velocity profile, what the turbulence should look like under the ship. We know that the velocity profile should follow a logarithmic line, and this extra bit here is because of roughness, because of the rough surface, biofouling. So if it's smooth, we have a thing we call delta U plus is 0. And as we increase the speed, the surface effectively becomes rougher, or the friction increases. And that effect is actually to increase this delta U plus. That's the only effect. Other than that, all of these lines have the same shape. Okay, so once we have delta U plus for each one of these speeds, or once we know what delta U plus is for the changing friction, we can find something called Ks. I'll explain this in a second. Okay, so we've measured this thing called delta U plus, and there's a known correlation developed for a sandpaper surface. I hope you can hear me. I've just taken the earplugs out.
It's clear, Jason. We can hear you.
Okay, that's better. Sorry. Yeah, so sorry. Once we know this thing delta U plus that we can measure, there's a known correlation that's been known for 90 years for how we relate that to something called Ks. This is a measure of the friction. Okay, so when we plot that data, delta U plus versus Ks, it should fit on this curve. And that gives us this thing called Ks, which is, in this case, 0.325 millimeters. So what does that actually mean? It means this surface here that you can see, this tube worm surface that we took from the beginning. So if you didn't understand the last few slides, don't worry. This is what we were trying to do with the wind tunnel. We're taking this surface, we put it in the wind tunnel, and we determined this measure of roughness, As equals 0.325 millimeters. What does that mean? It means that if a ship had this tube worm surface, if we could replace that whole ship hull with this sandpaper, 50 grit sandpaper that has sand sizes 0.325 millimeters, those two surfaces would have the same drag. That's what this is. So the wind tunnel allows us to determine effectively the type of sandpaper that would replace the hull and give the same drag. So the more roughness you have on the surface, the more barnacles you have, the higher this number will be. Okay, so the wind tunnel allows us to measure that, but how do we know what the drag is at the ship scale? I won't go into detail, but my colleague Hutchins has developed a new method to do that, which is very similar to the Granville 1958 method that some of you may know, but it uses numerical integration instead of analytical. Okay, so when we apply that method that Nick Hutchins developed, we did it for a number of different ships. And what we found is this is the increase in drag to the tube worm surface. So this is just friction drag. So 46% for a frigate at cruise, 59% increase for a fast-moving frigate, and for a, perhaps more relevant, for a large crude carrier, there's a 40% increase in friction drag. Now that doesn't exactly translate to fuel use because you need to take into account things like wave drag and other resistances. So if we do that, you get this number, and there's no one correlations for doing this. They're of course estimates, but this is the estimate that we get. So if the ship, let's say a large crude carrier had tube worm fouled surface, which was not very rough, you would expect increased fuel use of roughly 30%, according to our analysis. Okay, so this is very interesting, and I need to explain some more things in a minute, but that's what we can get out of a wind tunnel, and knowing the surface roughness. Just one little side note, I think it's important for design or for those operators doing maintenance or shipyard operators. The relationship between the drag increase and the roughness, or the biofouling, is highly nonlinear, which means that when you have very light fouling, say 400 microns, 0.4 millimeters of fouling, which is not very much, it's like the tube worm surface you saw before, that is a 50% increase in drag, or at least friction. To get 100%, you need 2.6 millimeters, so six or seven times more roughness to get double the drag. So it's a highly nonlinear curve, which means the first small fouling is actually really proportionally bad. Okay, so what have we got so far? This is, I guess, the first half of the talk. Given a surface condition, and we know what it is, we can take it to the wind tunnel, and we can determine this thing called KS, which is basically what the effective sandpaper surface that the hull is exhibiting. Then we can use that to predict the drag on a full-scale ship. And this work has been published some years ago. But there's a big problem with this. And the big problem is we don't know if it's right. We don't know if the scaling up to the ship scale is correct. We can trust our wind tunnel measurements. All the things that I showed you so far are reliable. But to scale up to the ship scale is not a trivial problem. The only way to do it is to do in situ ship testing. That's really difficult and not very commonly done. But that's what we wanted to do. So in collaboration with ITS and Southampton, that's what we set out to do. So what I showed you so far is we can do all this great laboratory work. We can replicate the surface in the tunnel, measure the flow on the surface, and make predictions. But what we really need to do is go and monitor the real hull surface, measure the velocity in the real turbulent boundary layer on the ship while it's operating, and compare with the shipboard operations data. Because friction isn't the only thing that will change the fuel consumption. There's many other parameters, of course. Propulsion system, fuel quality, etc. So the first thing we need to do is monitor the hull state. And even this is not trivial. Measuring the hull state in situ is not easy. There are some ways, but to do it on systematically and I guess reproducibly is very difficult. So we've actually developed an underwater scanner at the University of Melbourne, and that scanner has 9 cameras in it. These are just cheap Raspberry Pi cameras. This is not an expensive device, which takes 9 cameras of the surface. The 9 cameras take 9 photos of the same part of the ship's surface simultaneously. And from those 9 images, we can do a 3D reconstruction of the surface. So these are 9 images underwater of a real ship in situ in Indonesia. And then we can reconstruct it using our reconstruction algorithms. And we can actually measure this into great detail, down to about 100 microns accurate. Some recent work we've done with DSTG shows how powerful the camera system really is. These are some coupons back in Melbourne. And here's some reconstructions of barnacles from those coupons and from tube worms from those surfaces. So we can get very, very nice reconstructions now. And we can do this underwater. A diver can do this now. All right, so monitoring the whole surface is in pretty good shape. We can do that, and we've done it a number of times. Once we have that whole surface, we can do the same thing I just showed you. We can measure the flow in a wind tunnel, and we can make a prediction using Nick Hutchins' scaling prediction. But we still don't know if it's right. We still need to measure the drag directly on the ship. To do that, we can do it in theory. If we had an optical access, a window in the ship, we have something called a laser Doppler anemometer at the university. And if we move that thing up and down, we could measure the velocity, just like we did in the wind tunnel. So we have the system to do it. We just needed a ship with a hole in it. So in 2015, we first met Utama and Ketut Utama and Ketut Swastika in Indonesia. Maybe it was 2014. Maybe I've forgotten the time. It was 2014 or 15. We came to visit in Surabaya for the first time. And we teamed up with the ship operator and BKI. And we got our ship, the Dharma Kencana, that they agreed to put a hole in for us to have optical access. This ship was operating between Java and Sumatra from Merak. And so we're now able to do that. And we can compare, we are able to measure the velocity. I'll show you exactly how we do that in a minute. And we can compare that with our full-scale predictions. And also, we have, of course, access to the shipboard data. Okay, so how do we do that? Here's a picture of the Dharma Kencana in dry dock. You can see the hole there in the middle of the screen. Here's a zoom in of the hole before we had the window put in. And from inside the ship, you can see the window there, and the LDA is the laser Doppler anemometer that we move up and down. And as we move it away from as we move it towards the window, we get the velocity profile, just like we had in the wind tunnel, and it looks like this. So this is a real velocity profile from the Dharma Kencana in operation. It was going at about 9 or 10 knots, I think. And as the laser Doppler anemometer moves closer towards the surface of the ship, we get this velocity profile. So again, the velocity is the cruise speed of the ship. Oops. And as you go closer, because of friction, the water speed reduces. So just for comparison, this is the measured profile. As far as we know, this is the highest fidelity, almost carefully acquired velocity profile in a real ship ever. And this is a smooth wall. This is what it would look like for the smooth wall if there was no biofouling. So as you increase the friction or the fouling, you will follow this red line. So you would get the velocity profile would move this way, and you can see for our fouled state of the hull, which looks quite bad, we have this velocity profile here. Okay, we can plot this on the logarithmic axis again, and we can get this shift that I talked to you about before, and it's actually huge. We've never seen a surface that had created such a large shift at the university. And I'll show you in a second that that had a huge friction drag penalty of over 200%. And the KS number you saw before for the tube worms, it was 300 microns. For this, it's 30 millimeters. So this would be a sandpaper that looks like rocks. Why was it so bad? Because the surface, this is the real surface, and the ship was taken into dry dock shortly after our measurement. It was really bad. It had barnacles that were 20 or 30 millimeters in size or bigger, very large. Later we'll talk a little bit about biosecurity. I'm not sure how much time we'll have, maybe not much time, but one thing in Australia they're very worried about is these green mussels, and we could see some evidence of those on the ship. Okay, so back to this velocity profile that we had. This was the one I just showed you before. That's the smooth wall. This was taken in 2018. Interestingly, when we went back to our data that we took in 2016 and plotted it, it wasn't quite on the smooth wall. And in 2016, the ship was not long out of dry dock. And we weren't exactly sure why this was the case. Why wasn't the pink line closer to the blue line? In fact, when we measured it, there was about a 50% increase in skip friction drag. So we thought, why was this the case? Perhaps there was more fouling than we thought, but we had the diver look in 2016 and there wasn't much fouling. Then we went back to some imprints that we had of the ship after it was painted. So this is the imprint of a freshly painted ship, which we thought was okay. But when we looked closer, it turned out it had a very much orange peel type surface. When we talked to the paint manufacturer, they said this was not a very bad application of the paint. But what we find is that even that small orange peel surface of a freshly painted ship could cause up to 30% more fuel use. So that's straight out of dry dock. And this is why I say the fuel waste be a lot more than the $30 billion that they are predicting. Because the 30 billion is based on this biofouling, and even poor painting without biofouling can cause significantly increased fuel use. Obviously, when you have very large fouling like the Dharma Kencana had towards the end before it went into dry dock, we had over double the fuel use. So that's extreme. Okay, so I'm actually almost finished. So a few words in conclusion then. From what we've learnt, the quality of painting is really critical. 30% fuel loss straight out of dry dock is not very good, and it can be avoided. So for those of you shipyard operators out there, you probably already love your painting people. You should show them some extra love and make sure that they are doing a great job of what they do. I've met some of them in Indonesia, and the ones I've met are very passionate about their paint and do a very good job. And they assured me that you would never see that kind of orange peel surface in their shipyard. But it's really important to make sure that that doesn't that it doesn't get out. One other thing is the dry dock blocks we've seen can cause some issues, because there you can't obviously don't paint under the block, and that can lead to these patches of very heavy fouling. And I know that there are some yards that will move the blocks around to ensure that, we don't repeatedly have bad fouling in the same spot. We're currently doing work at the University of Melbourne to try and understand what the impact of these kind of fouling patches are, but it's quite a complicated problem. Okay, so there are some unique problems for Indonesia, and I've spoken in Indonesia about this before. Of course, Indonesia has one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. I'm sure you're all aware of that. Something like more than 80,000 ships passing through per year. This data I looked up, I was a little surprised, and I'm sure many of you in the audience already knew this, but Indonesia has quite a large proportion of the world's ships. Actually, it's about, depending on how you measure it, might be 10 or 20%, probably 20% of the top 10 nations anyway. These are merchant vessels, I should say. If you counted others, it might be even more. But it's a very large number of ships. So you guys are disproportionately affected by problems like biofouling. So for Indonesia, it's something like, if you take the $100 billion a year figure, you're talking about something like $20 billion of fuel burn a year. And you can't really avoid this cost because you're talking about an international market for fuel. So it's very expensive. And with the increased cost of fuel because of low sulfur regulation, that number's going to go up. And of course, biofouling, as we've shown, will increase the fuel consumption and lead to pollution. There's also the problem of biosecurity risks, which I know is becoming an increasing issue with the government. The government is more and more concerned about this. I think that this is going to become a bigger issue in time for Indonesia. And I think that this is a big problem because government has to work very closely with the shipping industry to make sure that any regulation that's imposed does not damage the industry too much, but at the same time protects the marine life. Otherwise, you have risks to things far beyond just the shipping industry. It'll affect fishing industry and many other parts of the marine economy. I talked a little bit in the beginning about how the risk might increase over time and the biofouling costs might increase over time. There's increased shipping moving through warm waters in the world. And warm waters are really bad because, of course, the biofouling loves the warmer water, and you get increased fouling. And if we have a situation, particularly this year, I'm not part of the shipping industry, so I don't know, but I suspect that there's been a lot more idle time for ships, some ships at least. And this of course increases the fouling problem dramatically. Any idle time is bad news. Then, of course, we have a climate change problem where the oceans are warming, and that's going to mean biofouling is a bigger problem in parts of the earth where it wasn't before. I think that the glow fouling is a great initiative for developing countries, and I'm really excited about what that's going to bring. And I know Indonesia and Professor Itama is a big component of that. So looking forward to seeing what happens there. But there's a lot more work to do, a lot more to understand about fouling of ships and what the real cost is. But I've outlined some ways that we can move forward with that. I think monitoring is really important. And I think our device that we've got is really useful, and I hope that it will be commercialized, not necessarily by us. I hope somebody commercializes such devices because we really need more of this data on what the hull conditions are to an accurate level so we can simulate what the drag will be. We also need a lot more correlation between fuel use data, onboard ship system data, ship operations data, and the kind of measurements that we're doing. We measure the friction or we monitor the biofouling. There's very little effort to correlate biofouling or the hull condition with the shipboard operation data. I think that would be really important to do that. Okay, I think with that I'll stop. And thank you. I wish I was in Indonesia to personally shake hands
with Dr. Bambang Pramujati and Pak Wasis.
But this picture will have to do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation, Jason. And also thank you very much for the collaborative work between Melbourne University and ITS. So we have involved several students from undergraduate, master and PhD level. Okay, we still have a few minutes time, I think about 7 minutes for discussion. Okay, please, if audience have any questions to Professor Monty.
think we have a question.
Anyone, please? Anyone, please?
Yeah. Good morning, Professor Marty.
Hello.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm Wisnu Wardana from the Department of Ocean Engineering. Wisnu Wardana, Ocean Engineering. Over here, a ship, the direct do maintenance to those ships. There is always a lack of maintenance that will influence directs of ship always increase every year, and at the end every year it that is in at the end we will have it in we will come that the ship will high direct increase and it will operate inefficiently. I want to know if but it has a high drag, strong point of view of the structure, or we will look at the drag of the ship in order to remove the ship from the fleet. I want to know that on me. Thank you.
I'm not sure I completely heard all that. I'll say what I think the question. I think you are asking if how do we determine when to pull the ship out of the water? Is that right?
Mr. No, we cannot really hear what you were saying just now. It was missing the voice. Maybe if it can be typed, it can be easier for Professor Jason. So, Mr. Wisnu, maybe it's easier if you type it.
You could try again.
That the ship every year will increase the drag because of lack of maintenance.
Yep.
But at the end, we will remove the ship from the fleet because drag is increased. It is increased a lot. Or we see this structure of the ship. If we compare that, we can go to the regulation later on. That regulation is depend on the
Okay, I think I've got your question. So there's two parts to the regulation. There's regulation of for the hull, for the board. There's regulation for the port and there's regulation for the operation of the ship. The port may want to protect marine species in the port, and the ship, of course, cares about fuel use. Now, if government is subsidizing fuel use for the ship, then maybe that's a different issue. The government may have reasons to regulate for that reason. But I suspect the regulation is going to come from biosecurity, not from any other way. So for the operator, I think they need to make informed decisions. So our work is trying to determine, if you know what the fouling is, what the state of the hull is, we hope to be able to tell you how bad the fuel use increase is likely to be. Sometimes that's obvious for the ship operator because fuel use is going up for the same journey, but it's not always obvious because there can be other reasons why the fuel use could go up. So I think the inspections, if we can get the inspections to be very cheap and easy, using the kind of measurements that I talked about, then it would not be an expensive exercise to check what the fouling is. That's what I hope to get to. And then you can inform the operator of what you expect the fuel use cost to be. And perhaps over time you can predict, if a ship is operating between two ports in Indonesia, you could predict what the biofouling, how it will grow over time. That would be really helpful, because then you would know how many journeys you could do before you start to see, or how many journeys you could do and how much the fuel use would increase over time. But all of this is only possible if you start monitoring the surface. And you can only do that if you can find a cheap way. It's got to be cheap and easy to monitor the whole surface. But if government regulates entry into ports, for example, like New Zealand does this, then you will need to have hull inspections anyway. So I think it's important in many ways that we can inspect the hulls much more easily than we currently do now, and keep records. I hope that answers your question. Sorry, I can't hear too well.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Wisnu, for your questions. I think we have maybe 1-2 minutes time actually for the last questions from the audience.
Halo, Pak.
One short question before we close this keynote speaker session.
Thank you for presentation from Professor Jason. I would like to ask some question. Will it be your experiment or research can produce the optimized forward speed for the vessel to accommodate the biofueling, and also to make an efficient fuel consumption for the ships, especially for the Indonesian waters, which is warm waters and the warming waters. That's all from me. Thank you.
Did you say what's the optimal speed? What was the question? The optimal speed? Was that the question? Could the host unmute?
Okay. Yeah, that one is the optimum speed for the vessel.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, the optimal speed is slow. As you probably know, if you go slower, you know, the power requirement goes with the velocity cubed. So going slow is save you money, for sure. Except, of course, you will need more to keep up the schedule. But if you're just talking about fuel use, yeah, the best way is to go really slow. If you then factor in the problem with going slow is that the biofouling will adhere more easily at low speeds, then it starts to get complicated. So can we find an optimal speed? That's a very interesting question. I haven't considered that. But yeah, it's certainly something worth considering. So for field use, low velocity is good. But for biofouling, low velocity is bad. So you see this with naval ships going very fast. They have very little fouling because the fouling cannot stick at the high speeds. But I think the worst thing you can do is have idle time. So perhaps the question is not only optimal speed but optimal scheduling, because you don't want a ship sitting idle and slowly moving into port and then slowly moving out and sitting idle again, perhaps back in. So scheduling is very important, and there could be an optimal sort of I guess optimal tracks, where you go fast for a while, and then if you have to stop, then you have some periods of higher speed to remove some of the fouling accumulated when you've stopped. But by far the biggest threat is stopping in Indonesia. That's a really good question.
Your answer, and I think the time is over now. Well, it is very interesting research and explanation, particularly for us for naval architect and marine technologies. Usually we use practical or empirical estimation actually when we quantify the drag, but from your research actually we can now understand there's a more scientific point of view actually to quantify that, and we have very good information from you that there's a lot of money actually wasted because of the drag increase due to biofouling. A lot of work has been done, and I think I have to stop this keynote speaker session. Once again, thank you very much, and please give applause to the Professor Jason Monti. And as a way to thank to Jason, this certificate of keynote speaker to Professor Monti. Please, the committee, show this to Jason. Okay, a certificate of recognition to Professor Jason Monti as a keynote speaker in Senta 2020. Once again, thank you very much, Jason. See you again next time, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Great to see you all. Thanks for listening.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much for all of the delegates and participants. I think now we move to the parallel session. I return the session to the MC. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for our keynote speaker, Professor Jason Monti, as the head of Department of Mechanical Engineering from the University of Melbourne, Australia. And also thank you very much for our moderator, Professor Iketut Arya Priya Utama, also as the chairman of Senta 2020. That was such an informative and insightful presentation. Thank you very much. And coming up the next session, we are going to have the parallel session for those who join this parallel session. Please be noted that this first parallel session will be starting at 11:10 a.m. until 12:50 p.m. and we will have a lunch break. And please be noted that this lunch break is only going to be 40 minutes because after that we are going to have the second parallel session. And now you can go proceed to your presentation room, but before that let us announce our first parallel session breakout room. For those who's going to join the naval architecture is going to be at the room A, ship production and material technology at the room B, digital ship technology at the room C, marine and safety engineering at the room D, marine renewable energy at room E, offshore and coastal engineering at room F, shipping, port and maritime logistics at room G, maritime education and training at room H. Well, that was the division and the division of the breakout room. Ladies and gentlemen, now you may go to your breakout room and good luck.